Can I deduct automobile expenses? This is one of those gray areas of tax. There's nothing codified in our Income Tax Act that talks about medical professionals and whether or not they're able to deduct automobile expenses. Rather, if you are required to use your vehicle for business or employment purposes, then you may be able to deduct automobile expenses. Keep in mind, though, that the CRA's administrative position is that when you go from your home to your principal place of business, they consider that to be personal in nature. So any expenses incurred on going from home to your principal place of business and from your principal place of business back to home are considered to be personal. So anything that's considered to be personal in nature and expenses related to that part of your commute is not considered to be deductible. If you are entitled to deduct automobile expenses, then you must keep a log of the kilometers that you drive and separate those kilometers between personal use kilometers and business use kilometers. So if you do travel from what would be considered your principal place of business to another place of business, for example, if you work at multiple clinics during the day, multiple hospitals, you do house visits, or you consider your home to be your principal place of business and you go to a clinic or a hospital, then maybe those are considered to be business use kilometers. If you are entitled to automobile expense deductions, then what you do is you total up all of your automobile expenses for the year. These include things like gas, repairs and maintenance, insurance, license and registration. If you lease your vehicle, you can include your lease costs subject to a maximum amount. If you finance your vehicle, then there's some interest charges that you can add to your total auto expenses. And then you prorate them by the business use kilometers driven during the year over the total kilometers driven during the year. If you are an employee and you are required to use your vehicle for business purposes, then in order to deduct automobile expenses, you need that form, that T2200 form that I mentioned earlier, before you're entitled to deduct automobile expenses. Now, keep in mind, I think probably going back 5 years ago, this was not something where the CRA spent a good deal of time auditing. I would say in the last couple of years, though, individuals that do claim automobile expenses are getting asked to provide support more and more frequently, to the point where I now tell my clients that if you're going to deduct automobile expenses, you should expect a letter from the CRA requesting all the support. And the support that they require includes things like that logbook that I mentioned. They need support for all of the expenses like the gas, the repairs and maintenance, and they don't accept credit card statements as support. They need the actual gas receipt. So if you do claim automobile expenses, make sure that you keep an envelope or a file folder with all of those little gas receipts, the receipts for repairs and maintenance. Just throw it into a folder, and if the CRA asks for it at some point in time, you can simply hand that folder over to them.